Welcome to a very special episode of Deep in the Plus. We are going to be doing something a little different tonight, and whenever I think a little different, I think of this fellow right here, Mr. Patrick Hackett.
What is going on, Rob? It is the WDWNT 50-hour marathon, and we are doing something super controversial.
It is a little controversial. This is a thing. So, we were like, hey, let's do something a little different. We're not going to do a review. We're going to go deep in the plus, and tonight we are going to rank the Pixar movies. There are 26 of them now. We're going to rank them from the worst to the best. Now, here's the difference is that we both have different lists. This is not something we got together and said, hey, let's figure out one mighty list. There was no science involved, at least on my end. But Patrick, I feel like you did a little sciencing on this one, right? What was your criteria? Tell me about that.
So I got caught up with the internet a little bit and this tiered ranking stuff that everybody seems to be doing. So I made tiers in addition to ranking them numerically. My criteria was, number one, is it a good film? So that's my number one criteria. Number two is how much I enjoy it. Number three is rewatchability. And number four is originality. That's kind of what I based it on. So you might see that some of the sequels are a little bit lower on there because I like the original Pixar ideas more than I like going back to that well.
Well, let us know in the chat what you think. We're going to be watching the chat. We'd love to hear your opinions of it, and you can tell Patrick all night long how wrong he is. And then on top of that, don't forget that you should donate to Toys for Tots. That's why we're all here. That's what we're doing. So don't forget toys.wdwnt.com all night long. We would love to get some donations for the kids. So
and we have some incentives. So on the late shift, we raised about $600 between 12 and 2 last night. So I figure $600 again. I have an unreleased commercial from 2014 from the Christmas podcast parade. Those of you who are new, it is something we used to do. It's a fantasy parade that we wrote, edited, produced. It was a labor of love. It was before anyone here was getting paid. And I have an unreleased commercial that I will share with everyone. I also have 5 adult beverages here. If you donate $10, I will list them in the chat and you can pick my drink. And also for $50, because 25 happened too quickly, I will drink this bottle of Ghost Pepper vodka for the tots. That's toys.wdwnt.com. Make those donations, and let's get into some Pixar.
All right. That's a lot. That's a lot. I remember none of what you just said. So please give, and the more you give, the weirder things that Patrick will do. That's going to be exciting.
It'll get weird.
Yeah, it's going to get weird. So here's the thing with Pixar. A couple things, like you were giving your criteria. For me, it's do I want to watch it again?
Mm-hmm.
Basic and simple. Yeah. Do I want to watch it again? There are a lot of things we could have said about this. Was it artistic? Was it Academy Award winning? Was it the music, originality, as you mentioned? But to me, it's do I want to watch it again? That's where I'm looking at this list of 26 movies. So I think, again, your list is going to be very different from my list, but I think what we'll do it snake style, like a snake draft. Right. So I'll give my first one, then you give yours, you give 2 more, and we'll go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
That sound fair?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the thing about Pixar movies to me is that when I was making this list, I was realizing that my favorite movie is not a Pixar movie. Yet I love all of these movies. Like I will watch any of these movies. I will watch. See, already we're going to be different team. I would watch any of these movies again. Whereas again, like Pixar movies are not my favorite. Like Tron, Nightmare Before Christmas, Empire Strikes Back. Like if you're asking me my favorite movies, these are the ones I'm rattling off. There's really not going to be a Pixar one in the first 5 or 10, honestly. So that's why I feel like I feel a comfort with Pixar. The other thing that is funny with me and Pixar is that I think we've gotten to a point in our world where a lot of people don't know the difference. I know I've played the game with my family heads up and I'm like, oh, this is a Pixar character. And they're like, I'm not really sure what you're talking about here. So Disney and Pixar kind of bleed together. I know that I've talked to people who think Shrek is a Pixar movie.
Oh God. How dare.
Yeah. Lord help them. Right. So there's a lot of different, there's a lot of different things to take into account, but Pixar used to be, go ahead.
My favorite theory is that Brave and Wreck-It Ralph were switched production labels to see how they would perform. Definitely just a rumor, but it's something I've heard from a few people.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But the other thing about the Pixar movies is that there used to be, and Family Guy did a joke about this, and we talked about this during one of our reviews. We've reviewed a lot of these movies. We've done Brave, we've done Bug's Life, several of these we've reviewed. Family Guy had a joke that said, like, Pixar movies aren't a slam dunk anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of true. There was a time period, I think at least through the first 10, where everybody loved everything that Pixar put out.
Absolutely.
And then I think it's become a little bit more separated. What's the word I'm looking for? When, like, you know, it's a little bit more of an argument about whether things are good or not these days. And I know you have some opinions. So let's roll into this.
Mm-hmm.
My first one, 26. Again, we're going to start at 26 and work our way back through number 1. 26 for me is Cars 2. And let me tell you, one of the wait a minute. So Cars 2 is one of those where I'm like, you know, I don't love the Cars IP in general, but yet I love, like, the world of Cars. Mm-hmm. So Cars Land is my all-time favorite land to go to. I could spend forever at DCA at Cars Land. You've been.
I have.
But yet I was like, do we need a second Cars? And then when we went to see it, everyone I went to see it with hated it so much that I have never been able to get anybody to sit back down and watch it with me a second time. And I haven't watched it with by myself. So, and I know that notoriously Cars 2 is one of those movies that people are like, this could be the worst one. And I think, you know what, maybe we need to, you and me, sit down and do the Cars movies at some point. I don't know, but again, for me, Cars 2 is the worst one. Dawn is yelling, "Oh, come on, Rob." I'm not really sure about what, but that okay.
I mean,
can we make Rob do the shot? Wow. Okay. All right. It's getting super personal in the chat. All right. So, yeah, I'm naturally wired. There's really no reason to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Cars 2 is and I've put together a very it's almost, I want to say it's almost high tech score sheet here so that we can keep track of everything. I know it looks like a Google Doc or a Google Sheet, but it's certainly much more high tech than that.
It's proprietary.
So Cars 2, my opinion, worst Pixar movie. Your turn.
Ready? Real easy. Cars 2 is by far the worst Pixar movie, and I'm so glad we agree. It is. It's awful. It's why nobody was like, you know what? More Mater. Give me more. Tom made me more of a fan of Cars because he likes that movie a lot, and Cars will be up a little bit higher, but there is no excuse for Cars 2, and they're all kind of low on my list. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all kind of low on my list. And then 25 for me, and you know, I miss Wolf, and I know this is one of his.
Oh Lord,
it's The Good Dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
It's
all right.
The Good Dinosaur.
Not what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, that is a nothing burger of a movie.
Nothing burger of a movie.
I remember very little about it. Arlo's the little boy, right?
Correct. No, Arlo is the young dinosaur.
See, I don't even know that. And I remember there was something with like handprints up a wall of some sort. It's terrible. Well, I've never ever rewatched it, nor do I want to revisit it.
You know that one was in trouble because they fired the director in the middle. It was original, and they recast the whole thing. Like, they introduced the entire cast at D23, and then before the next D23, they'd pretty much recast most of the movie. So, yeah, I mean, that one I think was doomed from the beginning. I don't think it's quite as horrific a movie as most people give it. But I'm going to tell you, my friend, now that it's back to me, I'm right there with you. Good Dinosaur was absolutely second from the bottom. And I know a lot of people, we did a review of The Good Dinosaur, and a lot of people gave it, were like, oh, I love The Good Dinosaur. And yes, it is one of those where I don't hate it. Like I said, I don't hate any of the movies on here, but something's got to be at the bottom and something's got to be at the top. And I do
Hmm.
think that the movie, I think it has a weak kind of a plot. It's definitely that sort of that journey between, the dinosaur and the boy, and the boy's the dog and the big switcheroo, and I don't know. It goes back to would I watch it. And I don't choose to watch this over and over again. I did watch it for our review on Deep in the Plus, and again, I didn't hate it, and it's a Pixar movie, so I mean, but that's a thing. So, yeah, we're the same. This could be where we break off, though.
Let's see.
My next movie, after Cars 2 and after The Good Dinosaur, is a modern movie.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
are you ready?
No, I'm not. I think I'm gonna be upset early.
Onward.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
here's part of the thing that I have with Onward is Onward was not. It took away that satisfying ending. That it was an okay movie. It was when they announced it at D23 and they talked about it, it's like, oh yeah, and the unicorns are kind of like raccoons, and it's this world where instead of it being like animals that are taking on human form, it's like all of these like like all of these mythical creatures take on this form. And so there's a lot of it that's kind of cool, and it's got Tom Holland and Chris
Mhm.
Pratt. So I mean that's kind of neat, and that should have something going for it. And this dropped right before COVID, so it was a
Yep.
confusing time for everybody right in there. As a matter of fact, they
it
ended up
it
pulling it from the
was.
theaters and it being free to stream on Disney Plus very shortly after. And we did a watch along during WDWNT Live, but I don't want to watch it again. I just don't. I've watched it twice. I mean, the characters are okay. I know Wolf loved, dressing up. I don't know. To me, this one is not a great movie, and I mean, it, it's just not one I want to watch again. So that is in the 24th position for me. Back to you, sir.
So, so yeah, this is where we part ways. There's going to be a significant difference in our opinion on that film. This is my D tier, so this will close out my D tier. This last movie at number 24, A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life came out roughly the same time as Ants. If I told you the plot point of each film, would you be able to identify which movie it was from?
Dude,
No, no,
dude,
you wouldn't. No.
dude, you're putting this one at the bottom?
Yep. Yeah, it's a
Why?
bad movie.
It's
It's a
not a bad
very
movie.
bad movie.
It's got a
No,
great
it is.
cast.
Okay, it does. It's a underrated attraction. The attraction's better than the movie.
I
And
feel like
we all
I
know.
feel like it's a well-written movie. I feel like it was a
Mm,
beautifully animated movie. I feel like the cast was
the
primo.
cast was great. The cast was great. It's just it gets lost in the shuffle. I don't think it's anywhere near the quality of some of these other films that come up. I mean, that I have this below some sequels that I really didn't feel strongly
Oh,
about.
I love that the chat has turned on you. I love
That's
this.
fine.
This is
That's fine.
great.
I love being a
Oh, it's
heel.
so
Let's
good.
bring it on. A Bug's Life is terrible. A Bug's Life is
A
awful.
Bug's Life is
I think
garbage tier, you heathen. How dare you, Patrick?
I
Yes.
think Ants might even be the better version of that film.
What? Now you have to shut your face. No way. No,
I,
that's a trash movie. I feel like somebody stole that. No.
didn't Ants
That's
come
the
out
slug,
first?
dude.
Hang on a second here.
Dude.
On a second.
I know that they
Uh,
came out around the same time. I get that.
yeah.
And yeah, that was a little strange, but I feel like A Bug's Life is a really well put together movie. So yeah, I disagree with you on that one.
That's
I think
fine. You
I
can be
I
wrong.
think you've lost your mind there, but I'm gonna put it down. I'm gonna put it down. And now everything, it could be anybody's game. I am thrown because you don't even
Oh,
want to know where Bugs Life shows up in my list, dude.
I mean,
know
you don't
what?
want to know where Onward shows up for me. So we started well.
Oh,
So this is we're going into my next year with number 23. So this is the Sea Level. These are your like average movies. You might want to rewatch them, but they're just kind of average. And I go modern with this one. Luca.
see, I knew you were gonna put this near the bottom.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to put this one near the bottom because right from the beginning you watched it and you said, "Let's review." I feel like this was verbatim. You said, "Let's review that piece of trash."
Yeah. Mhm.
I mm. Now here
Mm.
I will say Luca did come out direct to tough to be, I mean, right to direct to Disney Plus, right? So
Yep.
they must have had, shaky confidence in how this one was going to do anyway. So the things that like Onward got moved to Disney Plus, and then you had Soul release on Disney Plus exclusively, Luca, and then Turning Red, and then we came back in the theaters with Lightyear. But I
Um.
while
So
I don't while I agree that Luca is not the best Pixar, I don't think it deserves 23. But I respect your right, while I don't
I mean,
respect your opinion.
I can tell you why real quick. Number one, it is an absolutely beautiful movie. Number two, we kind of all cringed when we brought up Shrek. To me, Luca feels a lot more like a DreamWorks picture than it does Pixar. I think it's missing a lot of heart. I think there's times that they could have gone for the heart a little bit more, and they didn't. I love Jim Gaffigan and Maya Rudolph. They're incredibly talented actors. I mean, nobody's really given off any real Italian vibes here. As a paisan, I like to, couldn't we get Joe Pesci? We couldn't get Bobby D. Bobby De Niro won't come and do a fish for us. Um, it felt like a rehash story. It was that very coming of age. I do believe Arlo called it calamari by your name, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, just not a fan of this. Not a fan of this at all. Very pretty and an occasionally funny movie.
Well, and again, we did a review of this one not so recently. I do think, my daughter has theories of like the relationship between the three of them. But
Yeah,
here's the thing I will give you about Luca is it. I'm not sure it feels like a Pixar movie.
I agree, 100%.
While again, I think yeah, that's tough. So okay, all right, and I'm already getting comments about that. They think Lightyear should be lower, so it's going to be interesting to see where you put that one, my friend. All right, so Bugs Life, Luca, um, here, this isn't. I feel, I feel like this is going to be a popular opinion, but again, I'm going to go back to the fact that like I said, is it a movie that I would want to watch? That's like if I'm sitting down to Disney Plus and I go, let me pull up Pixar, let me just watch a Pixar movie. Is this, a movie I'm going to want to watch? Um, Soul. I'm putting Soul at number 23 because honestly, first of all, the fact that Joe Gardner has a statue to represent one of the 50 characters in Walt Disney World history, I don't get. Because like I don't
Mm-hmm.
get the tie-in that what Soul brought to Walt Disney World. Now, it was a beautifully done movie. I think the John Batista music was well done. I'm not a huge fan of jazz, so that didn't really sink in with me. It reminded me of, do you remember the movie Heaven Can Wait?
No,
It was
I
a
do not.
movie about a football player who dies, and it was originally with Warren Beatty, and then they remade it, and I think Chris Rock maybe in the remake, but like in the original one, it was Warren Beatty, and he is a football player, I think for the Rams, and he dies, and then he like kind of somehow works his way through the system. And he comes back in this like rich guy's body, and then he like wants to train to get into the Rams, and then he dies, and then he goes back into the body of one of the guys who was actually on the Rams and finishes the game. That's what it felt a lot like that along the way, that to me. So I feel like I'd seen this story before a little bit. I do like that it has, that it brings something else to the table. It brings some representation to the table. I think that it brings the jazz music to the table, but I just don't. I mean, I don't love it. And the fact that Tina Fey, like I feel like Tina Fey should have been a big deal in this movie, and I feel like you kind of squandered her. Like, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler and we'll talk about Inside Out, I think brings so much to that character. I think that 22, I don't know. I don't agree with that one. But anyway, so Soul I have at 23. I think this is going to be a little bit upsetting too.
All right,
For
let's
number
do it.
22, Toy Story 4.
Man, me and you are very close. We're very
Here
close.
and here's my reckoning about Toy Story 4. I love the franchise. It's, the toys started it all. That's great, but Toy Story 4 I feel like didn't need to be made. It felt like it didn't really fit in with the rest of it. I feel like you wrapped that up in a beautiful trilogy. And if I'm going back and watching it, like, yeah, you're telling the story of Bo Peep, and we want to know what happened to Bo Peep, but it
Do
just felt it. I'm just playing along, dude. I put it at 22. I put it at
we? Yeah.
22. So
Yeah.
I mean, Toy Story 4, and again, I like Toy Story.
Yeah.
Des Woods in chat said, and here comes the TS4. Anyway, that's me. That's what I'm talking about. Is Toy Story 4. I if I sit down and watch movies that are sequels, I want to watch it from the beginning, and I would sit down and watch Toy Story, Toy Story 2, and Toy Story 3. I don't feel like you need Toy Story 4. It's
Nope.
not a bad movie necessarily, but again, like I said, I mean, we've got 26 movies here. I don't think there's any that I hate, but something's got to be near the bottom, and that's my reasoning for that one. So let's go back to you. You gotta tell me what your 22 is.
So
I hope it's
my
close.
number. It's close. We're very close with all this. My number 22 is Cars 3, and it's definitely better than Cars 2. I don't know if it is as good as Cars 1, but this is literally every single sports movie ever. This is like Angels in the Outfield. It's the Mighty Ducks. It's every sports movie, and there's no need for this movie to exist. Really, really well done. Like artistically, it looks fantastic. Voice work is always solid, but I have no reason to ever really revisit this movie. So it does nothing for me. Again, better than two, but not by much. Rob said that you don't have anything you really hate, and I don't. We're in this C tier. These aren't things that I hate. Like that D tier, I actively dislike those movies. But like this C tier here, they're fine. Whatever. I'm probably not going to revisit them.
Well, and that's kind of the Rocky Balboa movie, right? It's the one where he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
he still wants to keep the glory days, but there's the young whippersnappers he's trying to keep up with, and yada yada. My son hates that movie because he thinks that it's like it's done because Lightning McQueen's cheating. He's running. I mean,
yeah,
when can
100%.
you run most of a NASCAR race and then replace
Yeah,
the racer or the car halfway through? Like,
yeah, yeah. That's some WWE level stuff right there. Like
yeah, and I
switching
get that.
cars in and out.
Right, you want the empowerment of that moment for the rookie, Cruz to come in and take it all, but Cruz should have run the whole race and he should have coached it. So I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of flaws in that movie, but I mean, interesting. Okay, all right. So what's next?
Soul.
Oh,
Soul
okay.
is a bad movie. Um,
Oh,
Number one, it gives way too much credence to Pixar theory, and I abhor Pixar theory. I think it's the dumbest thing. I mean, the internet's full of dumb things, but that's up there. I think it's up there. But I wanted to love Soul. I do enjoy jazz. My dad instilled a love of jazz for me, and between this and La La Land, I mean, is just like the representation of jazz in film. I don't think was really that great. Some of the stuff I do like, Soul is beautiful. The music is fantastic. The authenticness of New York in it is pretty cool. I like the guy who's decked out in the '86 Met stuff. There's some cool stuff in the subway, but yeah, it feels off. It just doesn't feel right. It feels like there might have been a better movie in there somewhere.
well, and yeah, okay, I get that. Again, I go to the fact you got Jamie Foxx and you got
Yeah.
Tina Fey.
Yep.
You should have come hard with the two of them.
Yeah.
Whether it be comedy, riffing, whatever. But it just, and maybe part
Flat.
of that was, again, it seemed lackluster because you dropped it on Christmas Day on Disney Plus,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't
That's
get
a
to see
big
it in the
release
theaters,
time.
or maybe that kind of took some of the air out of the tires. I watched that, and what did HBO Max drop? Wonder Woman 2
Oh
dropped on HBO
God.
Max.
I had such high hopes for that. I love Wonder Woman. I love
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, and that is. I was like, oh, this is fine, but it's why did Kristen Wiig? I guess just people misusing SNL cast members. So William donated $50. We'll check the other ones when we get midway through, but I'm not dodging this. Here we go down the hatch with ghost pepper vodka.
Woo! That looks tasty. Mm-mm-mm.
It's so hot. It is so hot.
I don't really have
for the
anything.
tots. For the tots. Dear God.
I mean, I can.
Oh, it hurts.
I can start taking some NyQuil. I've got some of that on my desk over here. I don't really know. I don't know what else I could.
Don't do that. That'll take us weird places, man. That'll take us real weird places. So I guess we're over to you for your 21. Or are you at 20?
All right. So let's, and again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for giving to the Toys for Tots, the 50-hour marathon. Donate. Toys.wdwnt.com. Thank you guys so much. That's why we're here. That's why you're here. Let's take a look at the list, though. Here's the list that we're ranking. That we're ranking our own individual thoughts on Pixar, starting at 26 all the way down to number 1. And again, not that completely different at this point. So it's gonna be interesting. I feel like I'm gonna get dragged as we get closer, though. I feel like you've been dragged. I
don't think so. I think my list is definitely gonna be more anger inducing for the people.
This one's gonna be controversial for the chat. This one's gonna be controversial for the chat.
I'm ready.
Yeah, but I have a valid reason for this one.
Okay.
Are you ready? Are you still there, Patrick?
Yeah, I froze briefly.
Okay.
Yep.
Up.
Whoa.
I put up. Yep.
Whoa.
I know. Like I said, it's going to get real angry in the chat. I have a reason, though. Because again, I'm
out of here.
That's fine. That's fine. I take it. I'll take it. Here's my thing about Up is that it's hard for me to watch. For the same reason I don't go back and watch Dumbo or Bambi, Up is hard for me to watch because it's a very sad start to this movie. It's hard to get through that because you know what's going to happen. I'm seeing holy crap, whoa, OMG. Yes. Up is my 21 because, again, this list is what I sit down and watch it, and that's a tough one to watch for me. I love the characters. I think Doug is great. I was at the parks today, and I saw Kevin, and I lit up.
I love Kevin.
Like, seeing Kevin in person. She is fantastic.
Yeah.
And again, the actors like Ed Asner, is amazing.
Ed Asner.
I feel like they've done this movie dirty with the Flights of Wonder, like Up the Great Bird Adventure or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of hate, and I don't blame you. But again, my criteria for this was, would I sit down and watch this again? And it's just sad. It's just sad. That's why that's why I put it lower on my list.
I gotta say, I can see the difficulty with rewatchability for that, but you can just fast forward through that part and just enjoy the movie. I get it. Yeah,
but I don't.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is, it's too tough, and I don't know.
Oh, my mouth is on fire.
If it's the, I don't know. It's rough. But number 20 for me is Cars 3. So at least we're in the same ballpark with that one, which is, again, I don't hate Lightning McQueen or Mater. I think that I was watching the new Cars shorts this past week. So it's interesting to revisit those characters. I just think that there's a lot of flaws in that movie, and it just makes it hard to watch. So, all right, so that's my controversial one, and then
tough, man.
Cars 3, yeah, I know.
I think I'm gonna get hit more than for what I have high than what I have low. All right, so I'm at 20.
You are at 20.
Yep. So Toy Story 4.
Okay.
Toy Story 3 was the perfect ending of a film series.
Yes.
There was no need for this.
On this, we agree.
Now, I like it. It's a fine movie. Like, my daughter likes it. We rewatch it frequently, but it doesn't have any of the pathos of honestly all of the first three. it just feels like such a tack on, and especially when we have all those great shorts, which we talked about. You can go back, make sure you subscribe, WDWNT.tv, and check out our review of Toy Story of Terror, which is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Halloween special. All those shorts are great, and this just doesn't. It feels like a lot of cheap jokes. It feels like stunt casting to get Key and Peele in there. Not that they weren't good; it was funny, but aside from some jokes, this is just meh.
Okay. All right. So Toy Story 4 is your number 20. What's your 19?
Incredibles 2. Now, I have to tell you the reason for this
You
is
you
I've
you
watched it.
darn tootin' you need to tell me the reason for
I
this.
do. I've watched it at least once. I know that. I remember that I've seen it. I remember nothing of this movie. All I know is that I saw it. It existed, and I viewed it with my eyes. And obviously, I don't have anything that stuck in my palate negatively, but it just, I guess it's a movie that was just kind of there for me. I don't know if they needed a sequel. I think that's my biggest point. I don't think they needed a sequel.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, if you say so. That's I don't. Mm, 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 mm. Again, I mean, there are 26 movies. They've got to be in some sort of
Yeah.
order, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that I guess makes sense. In some weird universe, I guess. Um, yeah,
All right. What do we
tough,
got?
tough, tough. Um, here's it's my turn. We're gonna go
Yep.
19.
Uh huh.
I struggled with this one.
Really?
I did. I did. I went back and forth with it because again, it goes back to are we watching or rewatching this movie?
Yeah.
Lightyear, and again, I had such high hopes for Lightyear, and I know that when we talked, I think that um, anyway, I'm sorry, I got distracted by the chat. So with Lightyear, my thing is that I had high hopes for it and what it would be, and then the movie that came out was not what I expected, and it
Yep.
felt like it lacked direction.
Yep.
And then I also think it kind of stomped on a few of the uh, uh, I stomped on a few of the core pieces of Toy Story, like the whole Zurg thing. He says Zurg because they can't say Buzz.
Yep.
That's
Berserk.
weird.
It's real weird.
And I don't know. So I don't know. I think Neko in chat is a little bit upset about that one,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I Lightyear again. I think it was a beautiful movie. I think it was an interesting swing to try to take, say like, hey, we made Toy Story 4. We may have made too many. Let's go back to that IP and what else can we do with it? Well, what if we told the story of now? What I thought they were telling was the story of like a Buzz Aldrin in universe that
Yeah.
goes to the planet, but this is not what happened. This is they're telling the story of the movie that Andy went to see that inspired the toy.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So and like the twist on Zurg, I think was a little lame. Especially again, it stomps on some of the canon of the original Toy Story, and you know how I am with canon. I know you don't really care about it, but there it is. So William asked in chat if we could show the chart again. So this is where we're at right now,
Yep.
with 26 all the way down to 19. Again, we agreed on Cars 2. We agreed on the Good Dinosaur. You're out of your gourd with the Bug's Life.
Mm-hmm.
Soul, we were not so far away with. Cars 3, we were not so far away with. Toy Story 4, we were not so far away with. So a
You're not
lot
going to
of
say how
that.
out of your mind did you put Up over there? Only I'm out of my mind for A Bug's Life. But
I told you my
yeah.
reason. I
Yeah,
told you
it's
my
a good
reason.
reason.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it right.
No,
Um,
I agree. I agree. So anyway, please no spoilers.
18 for what?
I'm assuming the BC fan means for Buzz Lightyear, but
I have
Buzz. I mean,
no
that's
idea.
been out
Yeah.
for a while.
It's probably just jibber jabber.
Okay, all right. Well, it's fine. It's fine.
All
It's
right.
for the kids. It's for the kids.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we need some money
again,
for those tots.
yeah.
Toys.wwnt.com. We need to get $600, and I will read you a previously unreleased commercial from our old podcast parade. Right now, we are at 200. I already drank the vodka, and that's all gone. I have 5 ice cold adult beverages sitting here. If somebody wants to donate $10, I will allow you to pick my drink. So there you go for that, and that puts me at 18.
I'm giving 18. I'm giving 18.
You're giving
so,
18. You're
yeah,
18.
So
Gotcha.
So again, it could be controversial. I don't know, but Finding Dory. And here's why. Again, I'm not sure that this story needed to be told, and I'm really not sure that it's the story that they told us they were gonna tell. There were a few cute moments in this one, but again, not one that I need. Also, Finding Nemo isn't necessarily like one of my big favorite movies, and again, there's some sadness in that one too. But for Finding Dory, it feels like they were like, hey, we've gone back and we've done all these sequels already. We got to do one for Nemo because it was such a huge box office hit. We got to do one more. Hank was an interesting character. Obviously, they've added him to the Finding Nemo subs. The IP of Nemo, I think, is neat. I think it's neat that every little kid wanted a clownfish. And anytime they would go into a doctor's office and point and go, "Up, there's Nemo, there's Dory." But I don't know. Finding Dory just didn't seem necessary.
No,
so I'm putting that one at number 18.
We're not far off on that one either.
And then we pitch it back to you, sir. For
right.
number 18. What is your number 18 catastrophe?
My number 18 is Lightyear. I wanted to like this movie, but it's just, like you said, it's lacking direction. Socks is amazing. Yes. Socks is a great character.
Agree.
We need more Socks in the park. The way I feel about this is actually the same way I feel about Cruella, is that it's not a movie that needed to be made. But if you backdoored the idea to me, if you didn't name this person, you didn't see their name tag, and like at the end he plants an American flag somewhere and you see it says Lightyear, and you kind of like backdoored how Buzz Lightyear became a toy, that's okay. Like if we were just in like eccentric London and a fashion designer and all that, and eventually she turns out to be Cruella de Vil and you didn't know going in, I think that's a better movie. I think if you didn't know this was about Buzz Lightyear, it would have been better. Does that make sense? It was like just a space adventure that eventually turned out to have Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. As a matter of fact, I think that's great that they, there are several movies that I've said that about, like that aren't even Disney, like the TV show Battlestar Galactica could have been great on its own, the remake, without it being a throwback to the original Battlestar Galactica. But bigger than that, Battleship. Why? Why was that based on the board game, right? I mean, it was just like, it didn't need to be based on the board game. It was just like in title only. So there's some of the things that's like Fantastic Four, the one, the reboot Fantastic Four.
Which one?
The one with Michael B. Jordan. I think like if you could have made a superhero movie and not called it Fantastic Four, but that was a horrible Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, I mean the best Fantastic Four movie is The Incredibles, and we'll get to that later. All right, number 17 for me is Cars, the original. It's whatever. It's a fine movie. I would probably not turn it off if it was on like a lazy Sunday. I would just leave it there. But again, it's every single sports movie ever. The hot rookie comes in and needs to learn a lesson. And then, you know what, man? I'm going to say something about Cars that really bothers me. It bothers me sometimes when the adult jokes are way too much in a kid's movie, especially Pixar and Disney. Leave that stuff to DreamWorks. But like the cars that flash their high beams, ick. Just straight up ick. And I imagine Lasseter, who did that. I'm just guessing at who thought that would be a good idea to include that in the film. But yeah, Cars is whatever. It's fine. It's a movie that exists.
This movie.
Yeah,
See,
that one.
look at all the spin-offs of this one though. I mean,
Yeah,
you
it's a
got
terrible thing.
Cars 2,
Yeah,
Cars
it's
3,
bad.
the On the Road series we've talked about, the Mater shorts. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot to this universe, and then that's not even talking about Planes, which was more of a Toon Disney thing, and it really wasn't a Pixar thing, but it basically Planes was cars in the sky. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. That one I'm not sure I can and get behind Cars being that far down because I
Wow.
feel like
All right, you
it
put
brought a
up
lot to the
down there,
table.
and you're gonna call me out on Cars.
Yeah, yeah, I am. I'm
Ugh.
going to call you out on Cars because again, the follow ups to it did not do it justice. Um, I granted we both put both of those movies pretty low, but I think with Cars, it was kind of a little bit of a game changer. That's my hot take.
That's your hot take. You can keep your spicy takes. I drank my spicy take, so let's swing it over to you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You're right. You're right. It's gonna get bad. And again, now we're talking about. I mean, we're getting up there. Like that was your number 17 pick, right? So when we're looking at this, and the number 17 pick is Cars, like we're starting to run out of track here, to use
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Cars reference.
yeah.
So it's gonna be a lot of stuff that's gonna be a hot take at this point as to how low you put something on the list. You disagree with Up. I told you why. You put Bugs Life way too low, and I feel like
It's a
gave it
dumb movie.
not enough justification for why
It's an
you
incredibly
put it
dumb
so
movie.
low. But anyway, so here's my number 17, Monsters University.
All right, I can see that. Yeah.
Again, a movie that I'm not sure needed to be made. I know they wanted to go back to the well on this one, and here's one of the first, first Pixar movies. When they came out of the gate, there was a lot of creativity, right? Toys come to life, the inner workings of what bugs do, and the monsters. Like this is how monsters live. I don't know that the Monsters University movie needed to be made. Um, I don't know what it brought us that we can't live without. So I don't hate any of these movies, but I put that one at number 17. Um, Number 16,
Mm-hmm.
Luca.
Yep. Good spot.
Because again, I like this movie, but it didn't feel very Pixar to me. Again, maybe if it had been released in theaters, maybe if it had had a little bit more gas. I don't know. I feel like they played their card too early with the posters in the fact that these were sea creatures. Like, I
Hmm.
would have liked to have had that been a bigger
A
spoiler,
better reveal.
a better reveal. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I
that
can see that.
but again, I think it's an enjoyable movie. But I think it belongs probably in the middle. That's where I'm going to put that one.
Yep. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's valid.
Back to you, my friend.
Back to me. So we're out of my C tier, and I guess in the way that these tiered systems on the internet work, um, this is the A tier. So there's two levels above this. So these are
A tier.
the A list. Yeah, the A tier.
What
Listen,
about
I
the?
don't know how these things work.
So you went from
Gov's
C
mom.
to A.
Yeah, it went from D to C to A, and then there's S and X. So those are the last tiers, according to this tier list. So
Okay.
my number 16 is Finding Dory. The only reason it's not lower is, man, the Otter Cuddle Party. The Otter Cuddle
Okay.
Party is just so good. I like that a lot.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and all the same reasons you said, and actually number 15 is Monsters University. I don't think we needed this. Honestly, I really think maybe they should round out a trilogy with Monsters Retirement Home. Um,
um. I mean, I think they could have done something where they just continued the story from where it was, rather than them
yeah,
going back to the beginning of it.
yeah,
Um, but is that the only prequel? That's the only prequel, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, unless you count Lightyear as a prequel, I'm not sure you can because it's not really.
I guess Lightyear kind of would be it's a requel. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
So thank
Um,
you for the $10 super chat, Dove's mom. I opened an adult beverage and am now drinking. So cheers. Please go to toys.wdwnt.com. We'll eventually move that over to there, but YouTube takes a big whack out of that money. So
drink up,
we're in my
Patrick.
A tier now. So these are all
Drink
movies that I
up.
wouldn't mind rewatching.
I get it. I get it. Drink up. Up. I get it. Yes.
Mm.
Because up.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah. Okay. All right, yeah. So, we're not quite halfway through this yet, which, is good because we got a little bit of ways to go.
Yep.
But let's take another look at this board real quick. If you're just joining us, we're ranking 26 down to 1, both of us on our own lists. We do have some things that match up. But what's interesting to me, Patrick, is that we've put a lot of sequels in this bottom tier. Um,
Yeah.
so
100%.
yeah.
That's where they belong.
I mean, Soul, Luca, Onward, Bugs Life, not sequels, and obviously Up, but the rest of them, most of them are sequels. And then again, you
Yep.
drop Cars too low, but that's your deal. I know it's going to be about Up. That's the thing that's going to keep coming back to me. But again, I like the characters. It's hard for me to go back and rewatch that one. Dumbo is an excellent movie. Bambi is an excellent movie, but they're just so freaking sad. And yes, you know what's going to happen, but still. All right. So back to me for number 15.
All right.
And again, we have 15 movies left. Something's got to be lower.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're in the middle tier here. We're like, these aren't bad. I think we got all the big bombshells out of the way. I'm Everything in here is going to be debatable. So, hit it up.
Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. My son always talks about he likes Star Wars as like an aesthetic, but not necessarily he doesn't want to go back and watch the movies.
I can see that. Okay, that makes sense.
This character I care for a lot. The movie I don't necessarily love to go back to as much as others. Doesn't mean I don't like this movie. Wall-E.
Ooh.
Putting it at 15.
That's tough, man. That's really tough.
I know, but again, we've got a lot of movies ahead of us here, but that's one that I'm just like, I love the character. He is a cute little dude. I love that they use him and Eve as like IP for Earth Day and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but like, would it need a dark ride? Is it that kind of an attraction? Is that kind of a movie?
Oh my god, a Wall-E dark ride would be amazing. Now your blasphemy is just getting more ridiculous. More ridiculous.
Okay. Now, there was a time where they went through Up, Wall-E, Ratatouille. They went through like a very artistic, like those movies were really more made for adults than they were made for children, I feel like.
But they have something for everyone. I will say Wall-E.
I don't disagree with that, but I'm more so than Toy Story and, Bugs Life and some of those Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo and all that kind of stuff. I feel like that was more along the lines. Now,
they're ringing
Katie's
the shame
absolutely
going
to kill
Game of Thrones for you. Yeah, the pitchforks are out.
Yes,
the pitchforks are
absolutely,
out in full
absolutely.
Force. Go ahead, make them mad again, because maybe they'll forget what I'm about to say.
Oh, okay. Well, I've still got another one to drop, so buckle up.
All right.
This is gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird from here to the end. It's gonna be weird. Cars is the next one, because again, it goes back to I think it was a good movie. I think, like I said, I feel like it was unique. It was kind of trailblazery. I love that the vibe of the Route 66. And again, Cars Land is fantastic. Freaking, it's the land I didn't know I needed, but the movie to go back to it is a little bit like, I'm not really sure I need to go back as much as others. And again, I'm putting it at 14. I'm not putting it at 26.
Right.
I'm putting it at 14. I'm not putting it at 17 like you did. but but I am putting it in there,
All right.
in
I
that
didn't
bit.
see that bus coming through. They just threw me right underneath it. What's it, Bussy McBusface in
I
the
just need
Cars
to,
universe?
yeah, exactly. I just needed to
Yeah,
push you right in there because
yeah.
I just need to. Yeah, yeah. We're getting slammed.
All right.
Yeah, but
Well,
again,
I'm about to take the heat off of you. I'm about to take the heat off of you, so it'll be okay.
please do, my friend. What you got?
My number 14 is Toy Story, the original. Yeah, I know.
For what reason?
I don't think it's
Wasn't
rewatchable.
original enough for you?
No, I
Wasn't
don't think it's
groundbreaking enough for
rewatchable.
you? Wasn't a
Mm,
good enough cast for you?
no, it doesn't feel rewatchable to me. I The other ones will be higher on my list, obviously. This is an incredibly important movie, but there's a lot of difference between important and good. And my daughter really gets into rewatching stuff, and she got in a regular Toy Story mood for a little bit, and I don't dig it. Like, I understand its importance, but it just, storyline wise, it's all right. Um, Also, Andy's a little obnoxious. He's a little bit whiny, and it bothers me. Um, we'll get to the other Toy Stories, but yeah, I actually have the original ranked the lowest of the three trilogy, not to mention the fourth, the Abomination. Tom, not all children are annoying. I know that is your de facto, but you're muted, Rob. Rob, hit your button. There you go.
Okay, just so I'm clear though, you're putting
Yeah,
this in the bottom half of all Pixar movies.
it's right at the midline. It's like at the turn. This is, yeah, I think everything above this is better than it. Yeah, I will say that with confidence.
Yeah. And again, like for like Desi seems to be like chief of like dragging the chat here, which is fine. But the problem is we have 26 of these movies,
Yeah,
and ranking them is very it happens every time a new one comes out. I have not seen like a re-ranking that hit pretty hard since
yeah,
Lightyear came out, but it's also a different story. These movies only started in 1995. These movies aren't as like heritage as, and they were
yeah,
for some people. For some people, this is their childhood, and I get that.
yeah.
But for some, like this is not Snow White. This is not 1938, right? This is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some of these are like Toy Story changed the game
Yeah, I
for
know.
computer animation. It just changed the game.
There's
I
plenty
mean,
of very important films that
yeah.
aren't good films. There's a lot of them. It doesn't need to be good to be important.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hit you with my 13. I'm gonna run down the donations board, and then I figure when we come back from the break, I'll go, and then you do your two, and then I'll do my two. Just flip it.
Yeah.
All right. So my
Hit me with
number
your 13.
13. What's that?
Hit me.
Oh, okay. So my 13, the most middle Pixar film is Finding Nemo. It's mid-range
Why?
for me. It's rewatchable to a little bit. I don't know, the real biology of clownfish always kind of uh hits me when Marlin would then be mating with his son, and that weirds me out. It's a fine movie. It's just there. It's good. It's fine. Like, we're not in bad movie territory anymore. None of these are bad movies. This is enjoyable. It's good. It's beautiful. Um, it's just, I think there's several others that are better.
Okay.
And now I will read everyone's donations. So we had Frederick Dewey donate $50. Thank you for all you do. Love the replay of the legendary Three Brothers Fairy Fight version after the American Adventure discussion. So that's a carryover from the past one, but we'll count that under our donations. Trevor Andre donated $50. Shout out to WIGS. Thanks to Tom, Jason, and all WDWNT staff for supporting Toys for Tots. Cristiano Montiero donated $100. Thank you so much. William K donated the $50. Drink that vodka, Patrick. Cheers. Yep. So my stomach is sad now. Jason Vaughn donated $20 in honor of Kevin's broken heart at being so low. Up is the happiest movie of all time from Fat Tested Travel. The Super Chat Queen Rosita donated $20 for the kids. Good work, guys. Josh Martin donated $10. Toy Story #1. And Anonymous just donated $10. Thank you for the Pixar rankings.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
That's toys.wdwnt.com. Also, you can check out our auctions, auctions.wdwnt.com.
Yep. And you know, again, a lot of people are seeing us probably for the first time. We do Deep in the Plus every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we would love to have you join us. We had Ike Eisenman, who played Tony in the Escape to Witch Mountain movies, on with us. Patrick and I got to interview him, and it was fantastic. So go back to WDWNT TV and check that one out if you have not already, because he was a great guy to talk to, and we hope to have him back at some point to talk about a return from Witch Mountain. That would be fantastic to do as well.
And then we'll get Dwayne Johnson for Race 2, Escape From. I have no idea.
Race 2.
What order? Yeah, Race 2.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll kick off this round with 1, and you go 2.
Well, no. I've got it. We've got to even it out because I haven't done my 13 yet.
All right, yeah, you go 13.
Yeah, and so again, if you're just joining us, please make sure you donate toys.wdwnt.com. This is all for the 50-hour marathon for Toys for Tots, and thank you guys for being with us. We love hanging out with you, talking about these things. We are ranking the top 26 Pixar movies, or the 26 Pixar movies in order from our opinion of worst to best. And again, I don't hate any of these, but here's the list again if you haven't seen it in a while. Again, we were simpatico, Cars 2, Good Dinosaur, and then things started falling off the rail, and you know, we've been in the pocket a little bit. Monsters University, Finding Dory, you know, some of those that are in there, and then Finding Nemo was one that Finding Nemo was one that Patrick just did, and number 13 on his list. So number 13 on my list is Finding Nemo.
You jerk.
How crazy is that, though, dude? I mean, again, that we would put it there. And here's my thing about Nemo again. It starts out very sad. You know, there's, you know, Coral, and hopefully that's not the spoiler or anything, but, you know, the whole attack on Coral, and then, you know, Nemo gets rushed away, you know, and they have to go and find Nemo, and he, you know, so there are some interesting characters in this movie. You know, again, some that have become iconic in the world of Disney in general, like the fact that, you know, that you have a Finding Nemo the musical at Animal Kingdom, and that you see, you know, you have the refit at Epcot for the Seas with
something?
Nemo and Friends. So, what?
I like the Finding Nemo musical better than the film.
You know what, though? Like, Big Blue World is a great song.
It's a good song. It's a good song. Yeah.
Yeah. But interesting that we lined up on that one.
I think that's where it belongs. I think it's the middle ground. I think there's, you know, better above it.
Okay. So this was tough for me.
Okay.
The whole list was tough. I mean, we've already talked about that. But again, my criteria was rewatching the movie. And this is going to make no sense. Toy Story. The first one.
Yeah.
And it's gonna make no sense as the rest of them unfold, but Toy Story, the first one, is the one where I'm like, you know what, I've and it goes back to me watching them and what I sit down and watch it. And part of the problem is that I've seen Toy Story a lot, so that's why this one is a little bit more lower on the list than it would have been before, is because I've seen it so many times. I wouldn't sit back down and watch it again because I feel like I've seen it so much. Now, that said, I've seen Empire Strikes Back probably more than any other movie I've seen in my entire life. So, And I still never get tired of sitting down and watching that one. But for some reason, Toy Story, the original one, yeah. I mean, but again, 1995 changed the game. Tom Hanks doing this movie, like why? Like, I mean, that was big, and then Tim Allen and the rest of the cast, such an amazing cast for a startup company in a way, right? I mean, they'd done some shorts, but this was their big first full length animated feature.
I mean, Tim Allen was, yeah, that's still Home Improvement time, so he was a big,
Yeah,
huge star.
yeah, yeah. So Toy Story, the original one, goes here. So that, I mean, that's where I'm at. So number 12, Toy Story the original.
Man, there's going to be
Now
some real
it's
mad people.
now it's back to you. And again, we're talking about the top 12
Yep.
movies of Pixar, and that's out of 26. And like I said, there's none that I would just. There are so many bad animated movies out there
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
Storks. Did you see Storks?
No,
Um,
no. Why would I do
yeah,
that?
there are a lot of. I mean, there are
Any
some good
number
ones.
of ice ages?
What? Any number of
I
Ice
said,
Age. Ice Age
yeah,
1, okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ice Age 5, did it need to happen?
There are 19 Land Before Time movies, which are wholly unnecessary.
Dennis says he woke up and just tuned in, and we are both way off.
Nah, we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, again, you've got to look at the fact that you've got 26 movies here, and some of them have different genre feels to them too. And so
Yeah.
everybody's going to have a slightly different opinion on it. But every time I've looked at the list before, when like Variety or somebody else will put the list together, and I didn't look at anybody else's list. I didn't look at yours. I didn't look at,
Nope. Me either.
any other list. I made this up looking at it based on, again, the main criteria of how excited would I be to go back and rewatch these movies. So there you go.
All right. So that was me at it's me now, right? Did I say Toy Story 2
Yeah.
at 12? All right.
We're
And then
we're getting distanced
yeah.
from the company. You saw.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
the first time. Probably won't be the last. I have no idea how I'm still here. Decade plus.
this.
Number 11 for me, just outside the top 10, is Monsters Inc.
Wait,
Um,
what did you put at 12?
oh, Toy Story 2. I thought I said that, and I thought you agreed with me. Toy Story
No,
2
you.
is at 12 for me. Sorry.
Okay, so
I
no,
like
I
Toy
don't
Story
think you
2
said Toy
better
Story 2
than
for 12, but yeah,
better
Toy
than
Story
1.
2.
I don't know, maybe as a collector type person, that movie really, really hits with me. Kelsey Grammer as the bad guy, I enjoyed that thoroughly. I also liked, see, let's talk about the backstory of Woody in that movie, which I think is way better than the backstory we give Buzz. So, really, really enjoyable from top to bottom.
Woody's Roundup.
Yep, I like Toy Story 2 better than the original, and that must mean I like 1 better than the others. Must be a little bit higher. And then 11 is Monsters Inc. This is just outside my top 10. It's very, very good, incredibly talented cast, so much fun. Has a great attraction. I'm a big fan of Laugh Floor. It's just a really fun, good movie. I don't think it's so. A lot of times you hear this, especially with critiques of superhero movies, the difference between like a film and a movie. And I think Monsters Inc. is a very good movie. I don't think it reaches some of the artistic level of some of the other films we're going to discuss in a little bit.
Dawn says, I don't think they've seen any of these movies. Nope, I've seen them all.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have absolute opinions on these. I've seen them all. But
yeah.
I think it all depends on where you are in your life that you saw these movies and what it
Oh,
means to you. Like,
absolutely.
I know that Cars
Absolutely.
means a lot to Tom because of his dad, and
Yeah.
I know that there are probably some people who just like Toy Story is everything to them, and Finding
Yeah.
Nemo and all those. So there there is a lot of stuff on here that I don't think most people would go off the rails on Cars 2 and The Good Dinosaur being at the bottom. I don't think anybody has a problem with that one. After that, I get that people get a little bit a little bit upset about their favorites being brought to the
Yeah,
bottom.
including the boss of the company who is staying on to harass us for our
Yeah,
picks, which is
it's fine.
appreciated you tuning in, Tom.
Yeah, you two are worse than Randall. Mm. Randall
It's
has some talent, man. That guy can just. I mean, he was the lead scarer for so long. Um, so let's go back to you left off at Monsters Inc.
Yep, and
at
that's
number
the end of
11.
my A tier. The next is my S tier, which is apparently better than A.
Oh yeah, okay, I see what you're doing. All right, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. So here's the thing, Toy Story 2. And the weird thing is, and I'm gonna go ahead and say my number 10 is Toy Story 3. They're in
Okay.
opposite order.
Yeah.
Um, when you look at the movies, like if I were to pick the one I would want to watch the most out of those three, but I would probably watch them in order, one, two, and three. But I love the lore of two, the fact that they were going to make this a direct to DVD, and they're like, wait a minute, we've got something good on our hands. We should make this a theater movie. The backstory, like you said, of Woody and Woody's Roundup, I think they really evolved that movie and took it to the next level with Toy Story 2. And then with Toy Story 3, again, like, adding that extra level with, what happens when Andy's toys, where are they going to go when Andy goes off to college, and what
Yeah.
happens to the toys at the daycare and that are donated, and then Lotso being the one running the room. And I mean, there's just every movie that they had, they upped the talent, they upped their creativity, they upped the world, and each one added on to the next. So I feel like that's why I feel like each one of those actually got better.
Mm-hmm.
So, and but again, until four, because four,
Right.
like we talked about, four didn't seem necessary in the least.
Correct.
Yes, you're going back to that world, but so I don't know. I just
Right.
feel like with those movies they got better, and I thought that third movie had so much heart. It was one of those that's like when you were going into it, everybody's like, "Oh, you're gonna cry in this
Oof.
one." And if you're a parent and you're watching, the toys go and the kid grow out of the toys, and from a kid's standpoint, like to think of him letting go of his toys and moving on from them and what that means in life. This is where Pixar hits, man, when it's life moments. And I think that it just, I don't know. Toy Story 3, I
Yeah.
think
Oh,
I
I
think
think
they
a
just got
lot of
better.
this is going to lean into life moments, like you're saying, and what it meant to us at the time and how we became to see it a little bit. I way heavy. What weighs heavy for me is quality of the film. Is it a good movie? Is it beyond just being an animated film? There's lots of animated films. There's Madagascar, there's Shrek, there's all these other subpar, just pump them out to make money. And I think we hold Pixar to a higher level. So the quality of the movie definitely plays a large role in it. But for both of us, we've said rewatchability is really important, and our own personal opinions and where we were. And I think you're going to really see a lot of our personalities kind of come up into these last, especially the top 10 as we get to it.
All right. Well, it's back to you, sir, for number 10.
Man, people have already been spouting off about my 10 and 9, so I'm glad I'm just going to get them out of the way right now, um, because it's Onward at number 10. And for me, Onward is a really well done movie. I like the voice cast a lot. But as a person who made it through the pandemic and kept my sanity by playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends, and as somebody who lost his father without getting to talk to him one last time, it really hit all the notes for me. I like it. It's smart. It's funny. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think it's really one of the better offerings. I'm kind of bummed of where it came out. I think it would have done better in the theater if the world didn't shut down.
I don't know
I
what to say
know.
about that, buddy. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, yeah, I mean, to put it in the top 10 is a bold move. I see what it means for you. That's great. Um, that's yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
I just
Um,
I took a different twist on the that last part of it that it just didn't leave me satisfied as far as the movie goes. But I can see how it has a
so
personal
I
tie for you.
see I see in the chat somebody talking about no discussion of pacing, writing, cinematography, and chemistry. I mean, if you'd really like me to go into like film theory, I absolutely can, because it's something that I studied for a significant amount of time, in addition to working here for 10 years and, talking about every single thing that comes up here. Um, these movies are subjective, and we can talk about the pacing, but I'm sure you really don't want to hear about the mise en scene of one of the shots of these films. That's not what's fun. That's not what's entertaining. We're talking about why we think these movies are good, why we think they are some of the top of Pixar's, and obviously this one for me is a large emotional connection. And I just felt it came out at the right time, in the right mindset. And it's an enjoyable movie to me. I think the cast is outstanding. I think a lot of the jokes get played off really well. I, of course, likes the Dungeons and Dragons comparisons with it. It was good. My number nine, and I'm ready for
Wait,
Tom to draft. Oh, it's still me, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I was gonna say before you go to number 9, now that we're even
Okay.
up, we'll
All
take
right.
another look at this list because again, I think that for the most part we've been kind of close on some of these things. So Finding Nemo right at the middle there, Toy Story 2 not far off, but that's the list so far, and I don't know. It's interesting to see, from a standpoint of, like I said, we talked about the criteria at the top. I mean, when
Yeah.
we've done March Madness, and we've talked about, like, where on Park Center where we think March Madness, where the folks in the studio should fall, and where their
Yeah.
minds go with some of these things. Some of them, like, the big joke was Jason's criteria was, is it at Epcot? I
The
feel like we've
late
got.
great
I feel like
Josh always did the most cash registers for counter
right.
service.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I feel like we laid out the criteria at the beginning pretty strong, but I will agree with you though that from a film standpoint, there's a lot of things to take into account. Is like the animation. The animation of
oh yeah,
Pixar has just gotten better and better
hundred
over
percent.
time, and I don't think
Yeah.
you can compare animation to animation when it comes to these movies, because I do think Toy Story, from a story standpoint and from what it meant as a trailblazing movie, it doesn't. I mean, that
I'm
animation was a little rough at the
I'm not
beginning
gonna lie,
compared
that
to
does
today's
bump it down on
standards.
my list. Is
The
the
animation,
animation? I understand what it is for the time,
yeah,
but it's just it does get distracting at points in time because it's come so far.
yeah.
Again, understand the importance of Toy Story. It's one of the most important pieces of film of all time. I would probably say.
When we talked about, like, on March Madness, like what makes a good attraction,
Yeah.
like what makes it a good Disney attraction. Some of the things you take into account are the music, the story, the effects, the animatronics, or the journey that it takes you on. And I think that a lot of that, even though my main criteria was would I watch it again, I think that that is the hallmark of a good movie. Is it
Yeah.
rewatchable? I mean, if it's a movie you watch and you're one and done, then even if it was a beautifully lit movie, or if it was beautifully designed, or if the cast was crazy good, and it's just one you watched and went, well, that was one I watched. That doesn't check all the boxes. So for me, it really is diving down deep and taking a look
Yeah.
at, is it going to be the one that I want to watch over and over again? Does it stand the test of time? And I think that we've seen some of that stuff happen in the parks with, like, them creating, like, people. Some of these movies are so beloved that they make attractions, $1 million attractions based on,
Lands.
yeah, or lands based on it. Again, Cars, when it came out, when they were building the whole land, I was like, you're making this huge, 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 huge land based on that. The IP works. The IP works and translates so beautifully, in ways that I never thought it would, and it just ate my words when I went into the land, because it was just so well done. And there was a time when John Lasseter was head of the studio where just so many Pixar things were being greenlit left and right. So, I do think that there's a lot of joy that these movies have brought people. So, I think this is a good list, for each of us in our way. So
Yeah.
I'm ready for your number 9.
All right, and people have been clamoring for this. My number 9 is Brave. Um, this has grown significantly for me as the dad of a daughter. Um, and seeing that this is a princess who took her story into her own hands. Uh, Also, I like animal sidekicks, and I feel like her horse as her sidekick is really great. The little brothers, when they become little bears as a sidekick, is great too. I feel like this subverts a bit of the stereotypes usually seen by princesses. I like how her mother is trying to be that centering force to bring her back into the more traditional role. Uh, and it's beautiful. Although, even for the time, like some of that computer animation doesn't look fantastic. There's a couple shots of Mordu that are really, I almost want to say pixelated. But Merida is a favorite character. She's great to meet. And my dream, my real dream, is to greenlight a Brave live action with Becky Lynch playing Merida. I really and truly love this movie. I think it's fantastic. I think that people want it to be something that it's not and want to put it in a box that it doesn't belong in. I think if this was a Disney movie instead of Disney Pixar, this would have as much love as Tangled does. And I think we're re-examining the movies from this time period and realizing just how good they were and how a little bit ahead of their time they were as well. Um, I really, really, and truly enjoy Brave.
Okay. And just a reminder, if you've just tuned in, don't forget to go to toys.wdwnt.com and donate to Toys for Tots, and maybe somebody will use the money and buy a Brave doll.
Yeah,
There you go.
sure. That'd be amazing.
Yep.
We do have some
Um,
donations. We'll check those out towards the end.
so here's one. Here's one I'm going to put in there. Turning Red. Turning Red is my
Yeah.
number 9. There's a lot about Turning Red that I think is good. I mean, it's interesting the way that Mei Mei talks to the camera at the beginning.
Yeah.
Four Town, come on, Four Town was fantastic. I think it's an original adventure again. Like that Pixar kind of came back to that original adventure. We talked about there were a ton of sequels back and forth and back and forth. This was the last one that they released direct to video, which when this first was announced, I thought it was going to be horrible. Absolutely horrible, because I was like, what's the code that you're doing here for this whole Turning Red thing, right? Um, and it is about a girl who is in her adolescence, and finds out that she is a red panda. It happens to all of us at some point, right?
When you say it like that, it's pretty amazing.
That's what I'm saying is when you looked at when they announced it, and they announced it at the like investors call, and they were like, here's the stuff that's coming up soon, and the next big thing from Pixar is going to be Turning Red. And I was just like, that feels weird, but I watched it and had a lot of fun. And maybe the problem was that I set the bar so low in my head about that, but when I watched it, it was a fun movie. It was a fun movie to watch. I noticed you haven't dropped Turning Red yet either,
Mm-hmm.
so it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting to me that may be at near the top for you. But again, it could just be that maybe we haven't watched it as many times. But I do think it was fun. It's got a lot of representation. I think it's a different story. Like I don't feel like it's one that I've seen a bunch of different times, and I feel like this was what Pixar did very well when they first came out of the gate, and I feel like they had a little bit of a return to that with Turning Red. And then my next one is Brave.
Oh man,
Brave,
see, Rob, you're my dude. You're my dude.
see, Brave to me, like you said, it was almost as if Disney had swapped with Pixar, right? It felt like a Disney movie in so many ways. It felt like such a departure from a typical Pixar movie in the way that it looked, in the way that the story was told. It they had to really shoehorn in all of those little things that they hide in there, like the Pixar, the ball and the Pizza Planet truck, and the nod to the next movie that they used to do all the time. All that stuff had to be hidden in there in a very interesting way, because it felt more real world. It felt more like a history piece than it did your typical Pixar animated movie.
Hmm.
I think they did a great job with it. The music is fun. I think that the acting is good. The story is good. It's just it's a different adventure for Pixar. It really is. So I mean, that's why I put Brave at number 8.
Man,
So
see, I appreciate you, Rob. I
yeah.
appreciate you.
Well,
And
ball is back to you, sir. And again,
ball is back to me.
we only have you only have 8 left to go.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so everyone towards the top is going to be even more important. So
Agreed.
have at it, my friend.
Agreed.
What do you got at
Uh,
number 8?
so this might be some recency bias, because I've watched it so much and it's new. And maybe after a few years, it might drop down a little bit. But man, it's turning red. So this movie is right around the time period that I was growing up with boy bands and stuff. My high school into college when that was all kind of becoming popular. So I also saw my little cousins grow up during this time. Um, and number one, if you've watched anything on WDWNT.tv, you know I am a huge fan of Jordan Fisher. Having Jordan Fisher in this was amazing. The music is incredible. I like that there's a character out there who has a little bit of sass, a little bit of spunk. I like that it's telling a story from a different perspective. It's not the Central Europe story of a princess that we see over and over again. It's not a rehashed fairy tale. It is something new. It's something original. I like that it's based in Canada. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was creative. I thought it was beautiful. The music was great. I mean, we invented a band with several songs for this movie. I wish there was something in the Canada Pavilion for it. Again, might be recency bias. It might be because I've seen it a lot and I've really enjoyed it. But then again, I've watched Luca a lot, and that just made it worse for me.
No, I think there was something fun about this movie. Strip away everything else. It's just a fun movie. Like it was, and it, just a lot happens in it. I mean, it's there's a lot of it that's ridiculous, but at the same time, it's just kind of a fun little movie. Um, yeah. I love that we got dragged a little bit by Desi, whose favorite movie is Brink. Like, come on,
Rob, you know
come
when
on.
you start talking trash about Brink, you're not going to have me on your side. You
Well,
know
you know what
that.
though? That goes back to though the rose
Oh,
colored
yeah.
glasses of
Yeah.
a movie that you saw when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like that's one
Yeah.
of those things where you go back to it and you look at it and you go, well, that meant a lot to me. Now there are a lot of things I can go back to now and look at and go, that wasn't great. Um,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love Tron, love it,
I also love Tron.
the original movie, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
go and tap somebody on the shoulder today and go, you know what, you should go and see Tron, the original movie.
I'll do
Like,
that for John Carter. I'd be like, if you're really looking for something to watch, John
yeah,
Carter is on Disney Plus.
Tron
You
Legacy
know that.
was. Go ahead.
Oh, Tron Legacy is amazing.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
way better than the original. Should have got a sequel.
yeah. Tron Legacy was a great, like, almost a fix for, like, go watch Tron Legacy. Like, you can watch
Mm.
Tron and get the backstory of why Tron Legacy is what it is and where it goes from there. But it came out at the time when they figured it all out, right? Like they'd gotten, they'd figured out the technology, the blend of the the blue glow and all that kind of stuff, and just put together a really good story. I think the first movie was about how can we push the envelope, kind of like we were talking about with Toy Story, the original. Like, it's like, how can we do this in a way that looks amazing and does all these cool effects that we want it to do. But yeah, it feels dated when I go back to it. So there are things though that in my childhood that I go back to and watch again and go, oh, that it actually stands up and that holds up. But
Yeah,
so I think that there were a lot of them that it depends on when you watched some of these, what
definitely,
you think of it and how you felt
definitely.
about it. Yeah. um so number 7 for you.
Number 7 for me, and we're getting into this is the quote unquote S tier, but this is like what I think are real, genuine films. These are movies that I think can be held up to non-animation films and be viewed as equals. And this one's Ratatouille for me. Just a fantastic story. And who would have ever thought that this was a story we wanted to hear, that we wanted told? Patton Oswalt is incredible. The whole cast is really good. It's just, honestly, it's close to perfection for an animated movie, and Pixar. Luckily that they just keep upping the bar with all of their movies. But man, Ratatouille is so good. It is something that, even if I catch like a second, like if you're flipping channels, remember that, and you see that it's on like ABC Family or Disney Channel or something, you just put it on and you get sucked right in. And it's really a great story. It's about family. It's about your career choices. It's about so many different things, and it's about a rat who cooks high-end French cuisine. It's brilliant.
Okay. So Ratatouille. Ratatouille is your number 7.
Number
Okay.
7. Yeah, 7.
And you've ridden the Remy's Ratatouille adventure?
Not here in Paris.
Oh, well, excuse me. Oh,
Yes,
so
yes,
sorry, sir.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
All right.
Yes, when I was in Paris and I went to the Louvre, but I much prefer Disneyland Paris because I am trash.
Hmm.
Much
Okay.
like Forky.
Much like what?
Forky.
Oh, Porky. Okay. My number 7, Ratatouille.
Yeah, man.
I mean, we're getting up there, right? I like this movie. I think that Patton Oswalt. I'm just a hot take. Needs to stop doing so much voice animation, voice work, because I feel like every time he just does too much. He's kind of everywhere.
All right, I can see
Happy,
that.
Modoc. It's like we need a voice. Let's throw Patton Oswalt, and it's not like he's doing like Alan
Well,
Tudyk and he's
I
doing
was about to
something
say,
different.
we need a
He's
voice. Is
always Patton
Alan Tudyk
Oswalt.
busy? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's always Patton Oswalt, and I think this is him. Like this to me, I think he should have. This should be have been like on a pillow and said, "This is him. This is the one he's going to do."
Yeah.
But he does a lot of other voices along the way. This is what I was talking about though with the artsy thing that like Ratatouille up. Wally, like it seemed to be on a different level. That they were really exploring the boundaries of the animation itself at the time,
Hmm.
and what they could do as far as the music. Like that, this feels like it's in France. Like to me when I'm watching this movie, like it feels
Yeah,
like you're
yeah, and it feels
there.
like a lived in France, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that the movie doesn't have necessarily the perfect ending that you would want, but it gives you the ending you needed,
Hmm. I
you
like
know?
that. I'll buy that.
Because they
Yeah.
could have pulled off the whole thing, and he keeps the restaurant and everything goes great, but instead it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we fessed up to it, and then we had to do a reset, and you're like, okay,
Now
yeah,
we
that
let
worked.
everyone know that the rats run the restaurant.
Let me ask you this, Patrick: does this one need a
Yeah.
sequel?
Ooh, no. Please God, no. No, thank you.
That's what I'm saying. Like when you go back and you look at it, like even the ride isn't really a sequel.
Well,
The
somebody
ride
said
is
in the
just
chat that the ride ruins the film for them. And I'm like, it's a fine attraction. Like, I don't think it ruins anything. It's, it's not an improvement on the movie, but
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So again, we're the same on this one. We
yep.
both said Ratatouille for number 7. Again, there's a lot of pieces that go into it. Would I rewatch it? Yes. Enjoy the they've embraced Remy, whether it be Food and Wine Festival or the attraction or France Pavilion or whatever. I think it's interesting how much they've embraced him.
Yeah.
It's funny to me that the people walking around with the shoulder Remy's or the big chef hat with Remy popping
The
out the
chef hat
top,
Remy
and
is amazing.
yeah. So again, kind of like the Cars thing, it's like it kind of transcends the screen and comes to life in the parks, which is kind of what you love, right? Number 6,
All right.
Coco. Coco is number 6 for me, and I think for a lot of people it would be higher, and I'm betting for you it's going to be higher too. But again, it goes. I like the world of Coco. I like And this we're talking about top six. I'm not talking. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
giving it 26. I'm talking about giving it number six. I
Like you did
think that
up.
it's really a well done movie, top to bottom, telling a story that we've seen told a couple other times, as far as like the Day of the Dead stuff with like the Book of Life, and but again in a very special, unique way. And I just the sadness sort of comes at the end with this one, as opposed to some of these other Pixar movies when we were talking about where the sadness comes at the beginning. So it's like
Mhm.
it's worth the journey to me on this one. The music is incredible. I just, again, returning from the parks, went back in to watch Mickey's PhilharMagic just to see that scene again that's been added to that one. Mariachi Cobre, watching them. I'm actually a little bit torn on the rumor that was out there about whether Coco would be a reskin of, in the Mexico Pavilion. I would love to see
Mm.
them do a new attraction, like in addition to what already exists there, and add another attraction, kind of like they did where they added another attraction to France, to
Mm.
do a Coco attraction in addition to the Three
Man,
Caballeros.
maybe with a new CEO, some of these things are possible. That's a great idea.
Well,
If
but
we're
they're
not
talking
going to
about
use
this.
these,
They're talking about this Coco. Like the expansion of Coco happening in the Magic Kingdom was what Josh put out there, but I think it would have been neat to add this to Mexico. But again, this is one of those things like Encanto, where people want to see this come to life in the parks
yeah.
more so, in more ways than it is. So that's why I put it at number six, just because again, I think
The
the music's
boss with
good.
a
Good.
really good point. Coco and MK is better. I agree. I agree. I think it would fit better because
Yeah, no, I'm totally saying leave Grand
yeah,
Fiesta. I was just saying like
yeah,
an additional
yeah,
attraction.
no. It would be
But
good. It
yeah,
would be a good idea to have more than one attraction per country. That'd be nice to see,
yeah,
or maybe one attraction per country, or you know, maybe
no,
with
but
some new leadership, we'll be trending in the right direction.
yeah, but I do think that what's on the other side of Big Thunder Mountain, if they make all this come true, that's going to be great.
I was literally typing that as you said it.
It's on the other side of Big Thunder Mountain. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right,
Yeah,
so that's me now.
that is you
6 and
now,
5.
sir. Number
All
six.
right. So number 6 to me is, man, this might be actually my favorite, but I think that there's other movies ahead of it that are better films. It's Inside Out. Inside Out is just fantastic. Um, Bing Bong is one of the greatest characters we've seen. Um, the again casting tremendous. Amy Poehler, Lewis Black, Minnie Kaling, all in there. Oh my god, I can't think of his name from Spin City. He's such a great actor, very good character actor. Um, as Bing Bong, just being inside the mind of somebody. Now, this is really funny because when I was a kid, there was a TV show called Herman's Head, which I also really enjoyed, and Inside Out reminded me a lot of that. I liked that she played hockey. I liked experiencing a family move through the emotions of an adolescent. It's really just well done movie. I think legitimately, I think this is art. Um, it it's great. Ultimate rewatchability. Every time you watch it, you're picking up something new. Um, yeah, there's I cannot heap enough praise on it. Wow, you had that at the ready, huh?
No, I didn't have it at the
Uh,
ready, but I mean,
yeah,
it was one of those things that I agree with you. That was like,
yeah.
if you watched Herman's Head, I mean, that was one of those shows where you're like, I mean, when you watched Inside Out, you're like, yeah, that's kind of it. It's like he's got all these different voices, and there's the one that's like the intelligent guy, and then there's like, these are my feelings, and then there's the one that's like, let's just go for it. I mean, it's definitely more well defined for, for an animated movie to say what those, different um, the different emotions do. But yeah, I can see you putting it there. Um, yeah.
And then entering into my top five is the movie that Rob unjustly put way down low. I can understand It's a hard movie to rewatch, but once you get through that tough time where we're suddenly talking about a children's animated movie talking about miscarriages and things of that nature, which is probably an important conversation you should be having with people instead of not talking about your feelings. But it's up. It is incredibly well acted. I think Ed Asner could have been Oscar worthy for this. His performance is fantastic. Um, every bit of this movie hits. It hits the right notes at the right time. Kevin, Doug, Russell, everybody is pitch perfect. Again, this is another one with almost infinite rewatchability. The dogs have to be my favorite part. Squirrel and meeting Doug in the parks is amazing. Like Rob said, when you see Kevin in the parks, everybody gets so excited to see her. Up visually, absolutely stunning. You want to talk about some of the shot composition of this, the way they're framing the house, the use of the sun in it. I like how it gets a little bit darker when we're dealing with the darker elements. Again, these are quality film that I would put up there with, a lot of other Oscar nominees when we're talking about Best Picture. I think a lot of times animated films just automatically get lumped into that category, and I think several of these Pixar movies should have been actually in that conversation, much like Beauty and the Beast was.
Okay. Well, you know what? We haven't done up on Deep in the Plus yet. We could definitely do that at some point. I do feel like though this time you threw me under the bus with the whole rather than
Oh, I
hide from
did.
your feelings situation.
No. That wasn't my intent. That wasn't my
Mm.
intent. I swear. You know I would never do that to you. I
Whew.
love you like a brother. You know that.
Mm.
No.
Mm.
I think that it's a hard thing to watch, but it's an important conversation to have.
Okay.
It's tough, and especially when you want some lighthearted entertainment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so my number 5 is going to be, I think, pretty controversial because
Uh-oh.
it's The Incredibles 2. I love The Incredibles. I can't put a sequel that
Wow.
much higher than this one. But here's the
Wow.
thing: is that I think it's a
I forgot
good,
you hadn't done that yet.
yeah, I think it's a good companion to the first one. I think that they did a good job following them up, making them look like one into the next. It picks up very few sequels do this, where it picks up in the moment we left them, especially after so long.
Like that. Okay.
But I think that they did a good job with this movie and bringing it back and making it a continuation of the original story, but doing it in a very, I don't know, respectful way to the original. So I think that of the sequels that they've done, I think that they did a really good job with this. I love Brad Bird. I think he does a amazing job. So
You
I
know how
put
I feel
Incredibles
about Brad
at
Bird.
number
Yeah.
5, and then at yeah, I'm just counting to make sure. At number 4, the one that you trumped all over, the second Pixar movie
Wow.
of all time,
Wow.
Bug's Life.
Really?
Mhm.
Talk to me. Talk to me. Change my
No,
mind.
again, I look at this one and I look at the cast. I like the
Okay.
story. I think it's fun. I
What's
think
the
that it's
story?
it's it's beautifully. I think it's a beautiful movie. When you look at just the animation and how early on in the animation this was. Now, again, it kind of avoids things like humans, right? Because in the first movie, they
Yep.
stayed away from the humans too much because it was like about the toys. They can look plastic. They can look, it fit. It fit what they were doing as far as the technology goes. The throwbacks that it had to, like, the Pizza Planet truck being parked there. It's like, wait a minute, we know that truck. Like, this was the beginning of like that kind of thing where they threw these references in. Um, I don't know. I just like Hopper. I mean, we wouldn't
Good villain.
have.
Good villain.
Yeah, we wouldn't have that. I think that again, like the attraction was really well paired with this movie, the one that they put together for It's Tough to Be a Bug, and I think that it's really neat. I mean, Flick is very likable. Dave Foley does an amazing job with this character. Like it's almost as if it was written for him.
I mean,
So
Dave
I
Foley is
mean,
great. All the kids in the halls are pretty amazing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So again, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, but Katie and I did a deep in the plus on this one not too long ago, and going back to it, and again, it probably has a lot to do with when you watched it in your life and what it meant to you. But this was early on, and I feel like this was them taking what they did for Toy Story and upping their game. and into something that I think is a story that I still enjoy going back to. So
We have a request to see the list again, and they donated, so I feel like we should make sure that we show them the
yeah,
list.
absolutely. All right. So again, going back to the list, starting at the bottom again. I think Cars 2 and The Good Dinosaur that lines up correctly. You having Bugs Life the third from the bottom, and me having in the top five is kind of crazy. Onward that I had it down here, and you threw it back way at the top. Soul,
It's still
again,
me
I
and you
think.
on the screen.
Oh, sorry.
There it is.
I'm reading the whole thing and just looking at it. It
Yep.
was great.
Yeah.
So again, Cars 2, Good Dinosaur. Um, and then Lightyear, we were kind of similar in where we placed that one. You had Cars a lot further down the list than I did. But yeah, I mean, Dennis says Toy Story 3 was way better than Incredibles 2. You know what? There was a lot of good in Toy Story 3. And again, we get into the situation where they can't all be at the top, right? I mean, that's one of the things that happens all the time is that, they can't all be at the top. So for me, I think that Incredibles 2 was one of the better sequels. But, Toy Story 3 was good, but we had already had Toy Story 2 by that point. I don't know. That's my thoughts on that one. So you've got four more left, my friend. Do you want
I
to go
do.
back through and do some donations and talk about the people who've donated at
I'm sure.
toys.wdwnt.com?
Let's take it over to toys.wdwnt.com and make sure you're donating. Donating is one easy way that we will say some of the malarkey you're putting in the chat. Put some money behind it, and we will maybe say it. So we left off at Anonymous. So we are Desmond Woods, who actually just asked to see the list. Said that Paul Newman and Rascal Flatts deserve better. No, they don't. That is a Tom Cochran song, and the Rascal Flatts version is an abomination. The Tom Cochran version is much better.
Mm.
Rachel Spatafor said hashtag turning red for best Pixar film. Smooch Smooch, thank you for doing what you do. H. Jackson Wallace donated $100. And Dawn Hannon, who made me drink the Ghost Pepper yesterday, donated $25. Despite all these crazy picks, thank you so much for your donations. Please go to toys.wdwnt.com to make our donations. All this money goes directly to Toys for Tots. And you can also go to auctions.wdwnt.com to bid on some of our auction items.
Yeah. Hot take. I don't think these are crazy picks. And again, I think that you could ask 25 people in a row, and they would all give you a little bit something different. Based on when they saw it and what they saw. Again, the criteria we outlined from the beginning, I think we've been pretty true to. But now it's time for your number 4, sir.
Real quick on about different lists for everyone. I feel like 25 and 26 are pretty close. Tom says he'll do his Pixar list for a combined $500 in donations. $500 in donations. Make sure you put it in the comments. Tom Pixar list, so we know that it goes to that. Tom will be coming on the air in just 15 minutes, and I'm sure he and Spencer will have some very civilized conversations as they normally do. All right. My number 4 is my highest ranking sequel. I feel it is the best of the bunch for Toy Story, and it is Toy Story 3. As somebody who was the youngest of several cousins, I think I was the 13th of 13 grandchildren for a really long time. Hand-me-down toys was one of my favorite things. And getting those toys from my family, it really meant a lot. And that end of Toy Story 3, like, it starts getting me verklempt just talking about it. I don't share the same hatred of Bonnie. BC fan, you got to put that over in toys.wdwnt.com as YouTube takes a lot of that money. It is Bonnie's great. She does get worse in Toy Story 4, which is why I have Toy Story 4 so low down. Um, but Toy Story 3 is the perfect end of that series. It is such an emotional catharsis, and it really cemented Tom Hanks kind of as like the world's grandpa. I think that passing of Woody was like Tom Hanks going from the weird uncle to goofy older brother to the America's dad to America's granddad as he got passed to another generation. I love that movie. I can rewatch it if I don't want to cry. Maybe I'll stop it early so I don't need to blubber. I wept in the movie theater for that. And I think this is some of the peak when we're starting to see really good, really strong animation.
You know what's funny to me is that Tim Allen said that Toy Story 4 was one of those that, that Toy Story doesn't 4 doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I He said that Toy Story 4 was the one that really made him cry, and
Yeah.
how just emotional it was. And when I watched Toy Story 4, I was waiting for that moment, and I did not have the same moment that I did in Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3, I think, was one of those where, again, you've lived with these characters for so long.
Yeah.
Even if there had only been two movies already, you were part of that journey with them, with Andy, with the toys, and all the things. Like, Andy doesn't know all of the things that. Thinking of the song Scotty Doesn't Know now, if you've ever
As
watched that
soon
movie.
as you said that, that's what I started thinking of too.
Scotty doesn't. Okay. So, but Andy doesn't know the journeys that they've been through without him, and we do. And we've been there with them all along, and all the things they went through, in all three of these movies. And, now we're at the end of that. That one to me should have been like, ribbon on the package. We're done. But yet they came back to it in Toy Story 4, and I couldn't get. I'd already said goodbye, sort of. I couldn't
hundred
get
percent.
worked up again
A
for Toy
hundred
Story
percent.
4. Yeah.
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 Yeah. No, we already said our goodbyes. And it was that generation saying goodbye to those characters. That's really what that was. Give me 2 shakes and I will hit you with my number 3. Woo!
It's getting
Getting
hot in here.
getting
It's always getting
toasty.
hot near the top.
Yeah. You keep drinking those iced teas. Um
Well, it's either that or hand sanitizer, and I feel like I
don't drink
shouldn't be
that.
drinking hand sanitizer,
No,
so
no.
it's fine.
Um so my number 3 is The Incredibles. I am a huge superhero comic book movie fan, and for a very long time, this to me was the best comic book movie. This really had the spirit of that silver age of comic book characters until Marvel really started hitting its stride. I think it stood up the test of time to most superhero movies. It is definitely by far the best Fantastic Four movie out there, until they figure out who they're going to do the next one with. But this was great. One of my favorite things is this is a incredibly violent movie. The Incredibles dispatch a large number of henchmen. And when you think about that and you think about the end of Syndrome, Tom said it was overrated. I actually think it's adequately rated. It's in the top of most people's Pixar movies. I think it's a really well done film. The art is fantastic. Brad Bird, as we said, great director, great vision. Just man, this is one of the best movies put out, not only by Disney Pixar, but I think by Disney.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's only 3 movies left to the top. For me, number 3 is Monsters Inc.
Wow. All right.
And Monsters Inc. I noticed you haven't said yet,
I
so
did.
that's
It's at
gotta be.
11.
Oh wait, did you? Oh, you did put it at
Yep.
11. My bad. My bad. I
Yep.
was gonna say. Okay, so Monsters Inc. for me, I, th- I think it's just again such an amazingly well done story. So unique, so different. That whole there was like the early days of Pixar. It was like that question is what happens when you're not looking at your toys? What
Yep.
happens, in the world of bugs when they fight each other, etc. Like, the hierarchy of the ants versus the grasshoppers. Um, and to me, like, what happens, like, the monster in your closet, that seems to me that was such a great idea, the Monstropolis, and that this is their job and it's what they do for a living, and why they have to do it is to collect all of this, to collect the screams, and and the kind of the twist of who was behind the evil plot at the in the whole thing. I think it was just a really well done, fun, unique story to me. So I like John Goodman and Billy Crystal, and I think that we really hadn't seen like a Billy Crystal like voice a character, and he became Mike Wazowski, right? I mean, I don't think he had
Yeah.
voiced anything else before this. So
Yeah.
to me, this movie is pretty special. So I like this movie a lot. I like that what they've done with it in the parks. The Monsters Inc. laugh floor is a fun little thing to do. The Monstropolis ride in California Adventure, so much better than Superstar Limo, obviously.
Don't tell my daughter I've been on that ride. We
Oh,
keep that from
that
her.
that exists,
Yeah.
and that Daddy's been on it and she hasn't.
Yeah. 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 That Disneyland is a place that exists. We keep that on the low.
Again, another rumor, which I'm sure Tom would say, well, that's not something that was ever true. The Monsters Inc. roller coaster, the door coaster, that was something that there was like rumor would happen. I was just all about that. That would have been
Yeah.
so fun, I thought. So I don't know. It's a neat vibe to me, and I love that there's still a lot of merch with it, and it's still kind of going on. But like I said before, like Monsters University, I feel like didn't really necessarily need to happen. Monsters at Work, I haven't honestly watched Monsters at Work. Have you?
Really? I love
Mm,
it.
okay.
I thought it got canceled and then I saw it was coming back. I really
Well,
like it a
Monsters at Work,
lot.
it came out at a weird time on Disney Plus when we were watching a whole bunch of other stuff. So, I think that
No, I
Wolf and
really
I had
liked
talked
it.
about at some point maybe doing a review of it, but we ended up not
Yeah.
doing it.
It's fun. It's
Yeah,
silly.
my number two is Inside Out, because
Yep.
again, I think it's a very well put together movie. I love the whole concept of the like you said, the Herman's Head thing. What happens inside the mind. It's funny, man. It's funny. It's so well, like, the timing on it is so good. And I don't know. I like that movie, and I like what they've done with it. It would be neat to see them do something more than that weird little spinner attraction that they did at California Adventure with it in the parks. But I'm glad they're doing a sequel. I think
Yeah.
like we talked about Ratatouille. Like, Ratatouille, don't do that. Don't do that. But this one, there's like, okay, maybe there is more story to tell, and so I'm cautiously optimistic about what Inside Out 2 will be.
Hmm. We shall
Back to you,
see.
sir.
We shall see. So
Oh,
this
well,
is,
let's look at this bottom tier though again. I mean,
yep.
this is, if we look at the bottom, I guess 13, right? So, um, these are a lot of the ones that you would expect to be in the top. I assume Brave and Monsters Inc. and Toy Story and Bugs Life and Incredibles. Like, I feel like it's a pretty well rounded. Like, these are
Yeah.
things you'd expect to be in there. You got two left though. What's number two for you?
My number two is Wally. Um, I think that it works on a number of different levels. Like you said, it works as him just being a cute little robot going through and doing this stuff. It works as a critique of the world that we live in and the kind of buy, consume, 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 and just basically leave your trash behind. It also comments on the laziness of people. Uh, I really enjoy Wally. I like that it works on a multitude of levels. I like that Wally kind of has a love for old cinema in there. There's so many tiny, tiny details in this. And if you've noticed, I've not talked about any of the little Easter eggs because, again, Pixar theory is stupid. If you believe in Pixar theory, you probably also think there's a flat Earth. Um, but the details in Wally, like the way his eyelids emote, the way he and Eve interact, it is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is great. Again, this is another one that I thought could be put up there for best picture for the way it was done. This is a ostensibly a movie for kids that I think The first 30 minutes, it might be a little bit longer. There is no dialogue. Um, just watching this little cute guy scoop up trash. Very creative, very beautiful, and definitely a favorite of mine.
Okay.
Am I going number one?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the X level on this new tiered ranking system that people like to do. So this is one movie and one movie alone on this, and it is 100% in my mind Pixar's best offering, one of Disney's best offerings, and it's Coco. That movie, for pure visual effects, is astounding. The way color plays in that, and the story is just terrific. Like bucking against your family and cutting out your own path. uh the I always like the stuff where we're making music for the movie that exists within the world, and Ernesto de la Cruz and Hector and all those songs that they have, just it brings the world to life. You're envisioning this world that they live in. You add in that they added some reality with Frida Kahlo. It is just uh the epitome of an artistic endeavor, and the fact that this was again an animated movie that is for families and mostly for kids, and of course there's some fun stuff for kids in there, but I was blown away. I waited to see Coco for a very long time. Again, you got a guy dealing with a deceased parent, and it's a hard thing to deal with. By the time I watched it, I already had my daughter, and the end of that movie with Remember Me is heart wrenching, and it hit me in a way that I don't know if it would have hit before I had a kid. I still probably would have loved this movie because, man, it's close to perfection. It's really close. It's just great, top to bottom. And Rob, I'll give you these last couple minutes for your number one, which is Incredibles, right? That's the
That
only
is
one you haven't
correct.
done. Yeah,
Incredibles. Incredibles is a
yeah,
movie that I've watched with my family over and over and over. And it's kind of one of those you talked about flipping through the channels and you stop and you see it and I just watch it again. I know that that dude said, you know, overrated, but I think from a movie standpoint, the music, when I hear that music, man, that is awesome. We talked about superheroes. I mean, there's never been a better time for superheroes than right now, right? With all the Marvel Cinematic Universe and DC and what they're doing, it is fantastic. The way that they put this together and talk about, like, again, that's Pixar's question, right? It's the what would happen if superheroes were real, and what would the consequences be? And then those consequences being what they are now, what they'd have to fight their urges to do battle if they were told that they couldn't. And that's where
yeah.
he's at. He's It's not just like reliving the glory days in a sports movie. It's like he really still wants to be there to help and to be there for people, and that is his undoing when he gets pulled down by syndrome. I think again the music is so good, and like when you hear that music,
Oh
it's
yeah,
just so strong. And then I just the suits, like the old retro suits versus like their new age suits, the family bond, the struggle between them about she's at home and he's out there and sneaking around, and she figures it out and she's like, I would have done this with you, and let's band together and trying to keep the kids that we're not going to let you do this, but they're this is what they're cut out for, this is what they're made to do. um it's just so good, and I could watch it over and over again, and the way it's set up when it opens up with like the interviews, you know uh
yeah.
and then you get into the action of immediately, and it's that again superhero thing, and that aesthetic, that vibe of this world, that it's like it's not the 50s, but it's not today, but it's somewhere
It's
in
like the original
between.
Tomorrowland idea, right?
Right. It's so
Yeah,
good. It's just
yeah.
so good. And Kate's going Jack Jack. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Jack Jack. The humor. Oh, the humor is so good. And then the way they do the Jack Jack attack part. Like obviously it looks like it was written and then maybe removed, like that short. and then put somewhere else, and then like with Kari the babysitter, and then how it ties in with these voice messages that she's getting, and you're like, I don't really know what that story is until the DVD came out, and there was this Jack Attack short, and wow, it was so well done to me, top to bottom. Um, the actors in it, I think, were great. Um, just so good. I mean, again, the whole thing, just I'll it's the superhero movie that I needed at that time,
Yeah.
and I go back and rewatch it over and over and over again, and I can't watch enough. And that's probably why Incredibles 2 is higher in my list, is because I feel like it's such a great companion to The Incredibles. Again, neither of us really put, in the top 5, or actually top 4, none of us put one of the sequels in the top 4, even though, again, I think there were some good points made about Toy Story 3, but I think that once you've seen that movie, how many more times do you need to see that one? So that's where I go back to it again. So I would love to get everyone else, everyone else's opinions, and we'll post this show after the fact on WDWNT TV, and people will talk about their favorites, and I want to hear them. Like, I want to hear
Yeah.
everybody else's favorites and what you like. But when I go through this list, I think that this feels like, you and I lined up a lot. Let's go back to the list
Yeah.
one more time. You and I lined up a lot, that I was surprised we did. Now, again, those bottom 2, like you said, like that's kind of a given. But it's funny that you and I didn't talk about this at all, and we
No.
lined up perfectly there. And then that we came back at this, like Nemo number 13, and then Ratatouille number 7, and even Toy Story 2 is not far off here. So we and Incredibles you had at number 3. So I think there was a lot of these that we were very close on. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, my upset was Up, but again, I gave my reasons for that one. And I think for you, it was probably putting Bugs Life way, way, way at the bottom like that. But
No one remembers it. So before we get out of here, a couple things. Make sure you subscribe, WDWNT.TV. That's where this show is. That's where WDW News Tonight lives, boxed in. We also have Park Center, so there's a lot of fun stuff. Make sure you're subscribing there. Toys.WDWNT.com. Make a donation. Please don't super chat. YouTube takes a lot of that money. We did have a super chat from BC Fan and a donation from William K, who both want to see Tom's list. So that's 75 of $500. We're going to toss this over to Tom and Spencer doing Tokyo things, I think.
yep. All right. Well, thank you, Patrick, for doing this. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all the donations, and again, please continue to give. This is a great cause. We talked about Toy Story, and every kid deserves to have a toy. So please give, and we'll see you again real soon. Have a great rest of your weekend, and enjoy the rest of the marathon.